So I've been actually wanting to make this video for a very long time, honestly. And I think the reason I was afraid of doing it is because I think part of me thought everybody would think that I was just like being a hater.
Oh man, hate.
Or being a conspiracy theorist or just hating on musicians in general. But right now, a lot of online content creator musicians are getting called out for basically editing their performances online in their playthrough videos. And I am all for it because this is stuff I've been noticing for a while, and it's interesting to see a lot of other musicians finally calling this stuff out. And the crazy thing here is I don't think it's because some of these musicians aren't good or can't play. Actually, some of the musicians we're bringing up today are world-class caliber musicians. I just think because of the social media age we're in and stuff like that, people feel like they need to have all of their videos just be perfection now, and people are just not cool with it anymore. So let's dive into this. This whole thing really kicked off and started recently because Archspire announced that their original drummer, Spencer Pruitt, is leaving the band. And if you're not familiar with Archspire, this is their drummer, Spencer, and this is actually, like, you can tell this is raw and unedited. So, and this is no music with it. This is just him playing along with one of their songs. As you can see, pretty phenomenal. In my opinion, Archspire is one of the most talented bands in metal in terms of technical skill. I think all of them are very underrated at times outside of the musician community and the small pocket of people that are into technical death metal. But Spencer, in my opinion, is one of the wildest drummers out there. And right away in my head, I was like, he will be very, very hard to replace. Well, Archspire has announced that they are going to take open auditions for a new drummer. So of course, there are hundreds of videos going online with people playing an Archspire song and, you know, just throwing out their chops that they have. And a lot of them are getting questioned by a lot of people. And I think anybody that pays attention could actually see that a lot of these videos are edited. Now, I will fully admit, when I first saw the news that Spencer was going to quit, I started racking my brain about drummers that I thought would be able to fill his shoes. And don't get me wrong, there's got to be people out there that can. But the level of precision that Spencer has is very difficult. Like, it's not easy stuff to play. One of the first people that came to my mind is actually a guy that is referred to as Lord Marco. If you're not familiar with Lord Marco, his name is Marco Pietrozella. He's been a drummer for years and years. And I actually first discovered him probably, I would say probably more than 15 years ago on YouTube. He had a band called Brain Drill, and he used to just upload, at the time, what I know was just like raw and unedited, like quick playthroughs of stuff. And he was unreal. The speed was just ridiculously crazy. And it was like, I think he was one of the first people I ever saw do like gravity blasts on a snare drum and stuff. And he blew my mind. And over the years, like, I kind of kept up with some of his stuff, but lately I haven't. And it wasn't until I saw Mike Caputo. Mike was the drummer for Brand of Sacrifice. He's currently the touring and session drummer for Job for a Cowboy. I believe right now he's also drum teching for Dark Funeral out on their tour. He's a very, very, very good drummer. But he posted an Instagram story one day. It's not available anymore because Instagram stories disappear, but he said something along the lines of, I find it funny that everybody out there that is saying a certain drummer should be the new drummer for Archspire is a guy who heavily doctors and edits all of his videos. And I was like, what? Who are you talking about? And he's like, I believe he said, I don't want to name names, but he's like, his name rhymes with Schmord Schmarko. And I was like, wait, Lord Marco? Like Marco Pietrozella? Are you serious? Like, I haven't kept up with him lately. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, back in the day, his videos were super legit. And lately it seems like he's just been editing everything. And it's like giving people an impression that he's more precise and better than he really is. Fast forward a couple days after that, Mike released a video on YouTube called Let's Talk About Lord Marco. And then in parentheses, it says an epidemic of fake drumming videos. And this blew my mind because you don't often see like professional musicians, let alone people that play the same instruments, calling each other out on stuff like this. And I was blown away. So of course, I have watched through this video once, but for this video, we're live on Twitch right now. So if anybody on YouTube later wants to join on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech. Sorry, shameless plug. On this stream, I'm going to show the video right now. On the YouTube video for later, the whole thing won't be there. But if you want to watch Mike's whole video, which is wild, I'll throw a link to it in the description, but I want to watch this video really quick because Mike's level of detail he goes into this is crazy and it is kind of wild. Like this video, guys, like for those of you that don't know how people are like editing and doing this stuff, like this is going to be wild.
Here's the thing. He is a legitimately good drummer. He
is
really, really good, but he is so adamant that he doesn't edit any of his videos. They're raw. They're all live when it's just straight up not true.
So like I think that's a key thing to really bring up in this discussion is that the drummers that we're going to talk about in this video, like none of these people are actually like bad or fake musicians. They're really good. So it's kind of a bummer to me that so many musicians nowadays feel like they need to edit and quantize and overdub all of their playthrough videos. But I'll talk about that more later. But like this, so just want to throw that out there. Like Lord Marco is a fantastic drummer, so it's kind of wild that he even feels like he has to do this in the first place, and he's always very adamant that he doesn't.
Look at that beater. Okay. Oh wow, would you look at that?
That is... I mean, dude, this is my second time watching this video, and that still blows my mind, like how people didn't see that when he first posted that. He's doing ridiculous machine gun drumming, and his left beater is not even hitting the fucking skin.
So he's playing a gravity blast with his left hand, this one-handed roll.
He literally pauses.
Going when he picks his hand up and is not touching the drum at all. It's obviously edited. He dropped those snare drums there when he posted this video. I asked, how are you playing that pattern at 31 seconds? And that pattern sounds like this.
Physically impossible just from listening to that right there.
To me, something doesn't sound right. So because there's no noise gate opening or closing on any of the cymbal mics, that means that if he panned a microphone that is very close to his ride for that little tiny bell hard left, you would hear the ride getting into that microphone hard left.
For anybody that doesn't know what a noise gate is, the easiest way to describe this, I actually have a gate on this microphone. A gate is something that basically closes the microphone when there's not a certain threshold of sound going through it. So for example, if I moved to the other side of the room and started talking, my noise gate would my mic would be shut off. Same thing with recording is that you have gates on stuff so that the sound doesn't bleed through when it's not being hit and stuff like that. So his argument that he's making here is like in the first season of Prison Break, where they analyze the video of Lincoln Burrows shooting the guy, and the guy that analyzes the tape is like, oh, that sound of that gunshot is wrong because there would be reverb. So that gunshot sound in that tape wasn't recorded in this room. That's the argument that he's making, is that if there were no gates on it, you would hear the reverb from that bell. So for anybody that's not following, what he's calling out there is that bell thing he's doing, it would require you to use two hands to go back and forth. Like, let me get my hands in the camera, like up top, like that. But there's also a gravity blast going on, which would require a third arm down here. Unless he's using his dick, which I don't think is physically possible to do gravity blast with, but I don't know.
That's the main problem, is you're lying about it, and you won't admit that they're edited in any way. In fact, you openly say that they're all raw and unedited.
Striker Project actually brings up a really good point. They just said, but what kills me is during an actual live audition, any fakery will be exposed. I don't get putting out a not 100% accurate audition. Well, I mean, these aren't audition videos. These are Lord Marco just playing through stuff that he was, doing at the time. But it's a great point to bring up. But as I said, specifically because we're talking about Lord Marco right now. The guy is a fantastic drummer. He could go into a room with a band and play a lot of their stuff. Now, when it comes to being that precise and accurate and stuff like that, another thing I want to talk about before this video ends is how these YouTubers and content creators have fallen into that trap of feeling like they need to edit everything to perfection. Yes, of course, it may not be perfect when they play it live, but no musician really is. So I don't think they're worried about it at auditions. It's just unrealistic when it's online to see some, like, people don't play like that. Like, that's the whole point. I don't believe that Lord Marco would ever walk into an audition room for any band and get, like, exposed. He is that good. It's just the fact that he's, like, editing all of his stuff into a perfection and editing it in a way that is physically impossible to play. So in this specific instance, with the double bell thing and the gravity blast, if he were to play that live, he probably only did the one bell with one hand and the gravity blast with the other instead of the double thing. So really, at the end of the day, it's not hurting anybody. Well, you could argue that it is, and I'll get into that later, but it's just very untruthful to push and push and push and say, I'm this legit, my stuff is raw and unedited, when it clearly is. One of the things about this too that I found was quite crazy was that, Marco said, I don't believe in talking down to people and belittling people, but it's very clear that since Mike has posted that video, there's been a lot of sketchy, like brand new accounts on YouTube, like talking shit to Mike in the comments and backing up Lord Marco. And there are literally comments on there where people are like, well, we found Lord Marco's burner accounts. So it seems to me, at least, it seems pretty obvious to me that Marco has actually made like burner accounts to shit talk Mike, like, and act like he's a random person defending himself. It's really weird. But let's be honest, like, people were talking about, maybe Marco can't do it live and stuff like that. No, he's a great player, dude. Like, he's played with the Faceless. He's played with Vital Remains. He's currently the drummer for 6 Feet Under. Like, he plays live. He's not just like a YouTube drummer. It's just, that's where this whole conundrum is. It's like, dude, you're a good drummer. Why are you editing all these videos and then pushing the fact that you're not? That's the big thing here. And then I also saw this video pop up in my feed the other day, and I was curious to watch it, so I did. The video is called #Archspire Audition, but just check out the statements he makes before he plays this.
I swear to you, I've never played this song before. I'm not joking right now. I'm not fucking joking. You little shits, I'm not joking right now. I'm gonna play an Archspire song for the first time ever.
Moments later.
I would be willing to bet money he's played that song before, dude. I mean, listen, I will fully admit there are some songs that I've listened to enough that I'd be confident I'd be able to sit down and play decently on drums. But like a song like that, one of Archspire's more difficult ones? No fucking way, dude. So somebody says, you mentioned you haven't played this before, but I assume to play this well, you must have practiced somehow. So I'm wondering how you went about practicing. Marco said, I'm not familiar with the song, but I've heard it 4 times now. This is the first time I've played it on a drum set. Maybe. Like, sure. He could have lap drummed and figured it out. But there's another specific comment in here I'm looking for. Somebody said, in quotes, I've never played this song before. And then says, nails one of the hardest Archspire songs. Lord Marco responds and says, well, Spencer, the drummer for Archspire, wrote his parts to replicate my playing. So, not hard to basically play how I normally would play a song anyways. That is not only one of the more arrogant things I've seen somebody say in a while, but no way! Okay, first of all, let's just assume Spencer wrote all of his parts to mimic your playing. There's no way that a song you've only heard a couple times, you're going to play it 100% just because, oh, that's the way I would play normally anyways. No way! Every drummer has unique styles, even if they're playing the same style of music, dude. Benefit of the doubt, maybe Spencer was a fan of Marco, and maybe at some point he said, yeah, I wrote all those drum parts to mimic Lord Marco. But still, there's no way that you'd just be able to sit down, never have playing it before, and just nail it all like that. There's no way, dude. There's no way. And before we check out the next drummer video, that's kind of the point that I want to bring to the table here, is how I feel like this epidemic of editing and quantizing and overdubbing videos with musicians online has gotten quite ridiculous. And it's not needed. It's almost, as I said before, the same way that, like, it's kind of models and stuff and pictures get photoshopped and stuff like that. Like you can't see a picture on Instagram without being like, well, was this edited or photoshopped or whatever? It's become the same thing in the music world. And it's very unfortunate because a lot of these players are absolutely way above average, awesome caliber musicians, but they're editing all their videos and they're editing samples in and they're doing stuff like that because unfortunately, I believe a lot of these musicians feel like they need to do that because people demand perfection online. Now, me personally, if I'm watching a playthrough video, I have no problem if somebody has actually done stuff like that. I really don't. Because the truth of the matter is, I would say over 90% of the musicians doing playthrough videos on YouTube and stuff like that are doing that. But the big difference here is that they're not trying to push the fact that this is raw, unedited, all in one take. They're not pushing that like, I'm just this good. When you're watching playthroughs on YouTube, 90% of the time, if you see a camera cut, that is a different take. And I just point that out just because it's true. Like, I'm not saying that those people can't play that stuff. I'm just saying it's quite common for YouTubers to sit down and do like 6 takes of the same song in a row, playing it from start to finish with multiple camera angles, and then feeding in the camera on the audio from the best take of that thing for a playthrough video. And that's totally cool. Like, a lot of people do that. But again, when you're trying to say like, I'm this legit that I don't edit anything and this is all 100% raw and live in the moment, when it's clearly not, it sets an unrealistic bar for younger musicians that are trying to play, I think. I think there's a lot of kids that actually watch stuff like this and feel as though they'll never be that good, so they actually lose interest and give up on the instrument that they're playing. And I say that from experience. If I would have stuck with my bass when I was younger, who knows? Instead of being an average to slightly above average bass player, which I would consider myself, I could be really fucking good right now if I would have stuck with it. But the problem is, I kind of fell into that. I saw other bass players that were so fucking good online and stuff that I just got to a point where I was like, dude, I will never be that good. Like, so fucking why try? And I think that while Lord Marco says he is trying to influence people and be an inspiration to other drummers, I think there are some people out there that might be discouraged by hearing those perfectly quantized takes and being like, dude, I'll never be that good. I could be wrong, but that is one of the problems that I see with all this perfection that's demanded through all of these playthroughs and stuff like that. The next video I want to check out that I have not watched yet actually came a day ago from Craig Reynolds. Craig is a phenomenal drummer. Most people know him from Stray from the Path, but he has a YouTube channel where he does stuff. He released a video yesterday called Natty or Not, Riccardo Merlini, both Archspire videos. He is an Italian drummer, self-proclaimed fastest hands on the planet. He graduated at conservatory. He was a student of Mike Mangini. He's a teacher, a clinician. He's one of the world's fastest drummers. He claims that he discovered and developed the fastest hands technique for a human being, reaching 400 BPMs with single stroke rolls. Everything that I just said was posted directly from his own website. And once again, for the sake of time and using other people's content and stuff like that, I will most likely not show the majority of this video. So if you would like to see the entire thing at length, I'll have the link in the description of this video. No way, even with Craig covering half of that, I could tell that that stroke was not with the audio.
This is what's wrong. He's obviously really fast. He's obviously really good. This is what's wrong with the fucking world. And his videos get millions of fucking views. Absolute fucking horseshit. Come on.
I'm actually happy to see other musicians start to get actually pissed about this kind of stuff.
What do you get from your self-deception? What do you get from watching that and then assuming it's real? Some people's blind devotion to these things. What does it do for your brain? Well, that's the classic argument that Instagram models that juice all their photos up.
Oh, I just want to inspire people. I'm sorry for what I did. I just want to inspire people.
No, you want to look literally inhuman. And it's fucking bad for the community. It's fucking bad for young people to not know where the... I understand yes, because of this, you will get some outliers. The average person will never, ever be able to do this. And it is a detriment to the mental health of fucking young people. I want to inspire people to obsess over shit that doesn't exist in reality. Exactly. And then to go and do drum clinics, to go take money off people for fucking lying. Oh my God, I'm so fucking pissed off. Still, the last two snare drums sound exactly the same. Listen to the last.
Yeah, it's for sure triggered.
Right. You got that. They were all the same noise, weren't they?
I am Neophyte in chat just said, don't think the drummer's triggered. I think he sample replaced that part. It could be either or. Like, honestly, we don't really know. A trigger would definitely allow him to do that. Like, that's what drum triggers do. But it very well could be sampled as well. I am Neophyte also just said in chat, it's common on the bass drums, less so on the drums played by your hands. Not really, dude. Triggering snares has become very common nowadays, even like years and years ago, especially when you start getting into the death metal and like deathcore genres and stuff. There's no way any of these drummers can play all of those snare strokes at 100% power like that, like doing blasts all the time. So they trigger snares. Joey Jordison's snare drums were triggered to hell and back, dude. Doesn't make me think any less of them. It's just a thing. This was from 2009. Just listen to the snares in this part. It's the exact same sample and intensity of sample every single time. And if there were no triggers with it, you would get slightly different sounds because he'd be hitting the drum in a different position with a different velocity. Like, just listen. That is not me trying to delegitimize Joey Jordison or anything like that. Joey is just somebody that's brought up a lot when people talk about triggers and stuff, and people revere or regard Joey as one of the best metal drummers, and like he's using triggers and he's still impressive. So I guess my long story short here is like, I'm not bothered by triggers. I know triggers have become a constant argument, and I just feel like a lot of people don't really understand what they do. If anything, triggers actually require you to play better, because if you don't play good, they'll still pick up your mistakes. Renarin Fox in chat just said, so what do you mean when you say he's using triggers? Okay, really quick. A trigger is a device that you put on a drum, and it feeds into a brain computer processor or whatever. You can do it to kicks. It's very commonly used on kicks, snares, sometimes toms. Basically, it's a microphone or a sensor that clips onto the drum, and when you hit a drum and that trigger, that microphone or sensor picks up the vibrations from the drum, it will send a signal to the processor, which then sends the audio to front of house or monitors or whatever. You can program in any sound that you want. You could do fucking farts if you wanted to, but you can set the sensitivity on a trigger. So let's say, I'm just going to use my hands here just because this is a good example. Let's say you're not using triggers and you hit a drum at 100% and it sounds like this. If you're using a trigger, you could set your sensitivity on that trigger and load a sample in there so that every time you hit that drum, even at like 40%, it still sounds like. So with a lot of these death metal bands and deathcore bands and stuff like that, they use triggers because obviously you want that perfect hit every single time when you're doing blast beats and stuff like that. So they will use triggers so that even if they're getting tired at the end of a phrase of a song or something, and they're only doing blast beats at like 50% of their normal velocity and strength, it will still come out of the audio mix as that 100% sound sample. That is what a trigger is. I probably explained that worse than an actual drummer could, but I think you guys get like the point. If anybody out there hates drummers that use triggers, you need to hate every guitar player that uses amplifiers and distortion.
So there's still editing happening. You've still been editing. So what do we know? What do we know? We know nothing. And now it's the same with he's the liver king. He's the liver king of drums. I was going to say the diddle king, but that sounds like he is. Yeah, like you can't trust him now.
I don't know, man. I don't know what to believe anymore. It's like, I'm starting to question all of these musicians that I see online. It's like, again, it goes back to what I said earlier in the video and what Craig said there. It's like, you know, you say you want to be an influence to all of these younger generations of musicians, but you're just lying to everybody. I would appreciate it more if somebody was doing one take bass playthroughs or drum playthroughs or guitar playthroughs and you could hear the fuck ups. and see how they adapt from there. I would appreciate that a lot more, because if you're playing live as a musician, that's more likely to happen. Guys, I've been touring for 19 years. 19 years of touring, and I've seen musicians of all different calibers. I don't think I've ever seen anybody be 100% at a show. It just doesn't happen. We're human. We make mistakes. So when I see all these drummers and stuff like in these videos that are just doing like inhuman parts, like the logical part of my brain now is just like, it is inhuman. It's not real. And a lot of people think it is real. Going to Craig's point where he's like, why even do this if you're a musician? Like, why? Is it you're stroking your own ego? Is it, do you want to be that perfect because you like, I really think what it is like, it's the social media effect, dude. I've said many times on this channel and on this stream, like social media has like kind of ruined our brains and rewired the way that we're thinking. People care so much more about what everybody else thinks of them than what they think of themselves. And I think that's part of it. It's like they just want to look perfect to everyone else. David Bailey in chat just said it's a super competitive market. I understand why they do it. That's part of it too. I mean, think of it this way, dude. Like, look at baseball back in the like late 90s and early 2000s when we had the home run chases going on and stuff like that. It's like one person has an advantage because they start cranking steroids, and then the next guy starts cranking steroids, and then the next guy starts cranking steroids, and then everybody's cranking steroids to try and keep up with the game. That's what's happening here. People started showing so much perfection that to stay in that competitive level on the online music space, everyone else started doing it. And now we're seeing that like some of the top drummers in the world are editing and basically faking stuff. Yeah, this whole thing is wild, man. Like, but I will say, I actually like that there are musicians that are starting to call this stuff out, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have wondered about some of these musicians for a very long time. And to see people of a high caliber like Craig Reynolds and Mike Caputo and stuff like that actually calling this out and not holding any punches, I think that is kind of what's needed right now. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to change anything, because the people that are like into this, like we are talking right now, we probably care. But the majority of people that are just doom scrolling social media looking for content to watch, they're not going to care. Anyways, guys, to everybody that was here live on Twitch, thank you for hanging out for this one, man. We've been recording for like an hour and 20 minutes. Obviously that's not what this is going to be on YouTube. This is going to be a condensed version. But again, shameless plug. If you want to join on Twitch when we talk about stuff like this, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech. I'm also on a ton of different social media. At TankTheTech is my handle on just about everything. But yeah, until next time, wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will see you very soon.